Hi, this is Nagina Abdullah, and I'm here today to teach you how to no longer have sugar cravings. You're gonna be so surprised because I'm gonna show you what to add and not what to take out. This is very different than any other weight loss advice that you've heard. Now, I'm gonna share the number one spice to add, the number one food to add, and how to combine your foods and which foods to combine so your blood sugar doesn't spike and so you no longer have those cravings. You're not going to have to fight your cravings anymore because you won't even have them. Yes, this is going to be unbelievable. And this actually happened to me. So I used to have so many uncontrollable sugar cravings, and I actually thought that I wasn't able to lose weight because I was genetically born with these sugar cravings. That's what I thought, because the reason is that I tried so many diets. I tried to do so many things that were restrictive. And no matter what I did, these sugar cravings were so powerful. And the moment I would lose 5 to 10 pounds, well, guess what? I would start eating all the foods that helped me lose weight, and I would put that weight back on plus some. Okay, so I actually thought that I was born with sugar cravings and I would never be able to get to the body that I wanted to. But here's what happened. I wanted to lose weight so much. And so I started studying what was in all of those, the scientific journals I have access to. So I have a degree in molecular and cell biology, and I have access to a lot of scientific information. And I was sick and tired of reading about what foods to take out and at what foods I couldn't eat anymore because it just didn't feel sustainable. So I started researching this information. I found out there were certain spices to add. I found out there were certain foods to eat more of. And as a result, I would get less sugar cravings. And so I tested it out. I started adding these foods in. And to my shock, first of all, I lost 40 pounds in 9 months. Okay. I could not believe that happened. I got to the best weight of my life, the best shape that I had been in at the time. And what was so amazing about this was that I also didn't have sugar cravings along the way or once I got to that weight. So today I'm going to share with you 3 tips on exactly what to do to no longer have sugar cravings. And then weight loss becomes a downhill journey. It becomes so easy because you no longer have to fight your sugar cravings. You just don't have them anymore. Tip number 1. So this is a spice to add. Now, for tip number 1, I recommend that you add cinnamon to your coffee in the morning. If you don't drink coffee, add it to your tea. If you don't have caffeine in the morning, add it over your fruit or something else that's sweet. So now let me tell you a little story about myself. When I was starting to lose weight, I was indulging in this cup of coffee in the morning, and I would add Splenda, which I thought was healthy, and I would also add French vanilla creamer, and I was like, oh, it's not that much. It's just a little bit of a splash. So I loved my morning coffee. Every morning I would savor it. It was like the highlight of my day was having that cup of coffee. And so when I started hearing and reading that I would start to have to take down my sugar, I started thinking, is it even worth it? Because I love my coffee so much. I don't want to change it. But here's what happened. I started adding cinnamon into my coffee. I started decreasing the amount of creamer and the amount of Splenda. And over a few days, I actually no longer needed that creamer or that Splenda anymore. Now, I started having coffee with just cinnamon in it. And sometimes if I had some almond milk, I would add that in too. But I was really happy with my coffee with the cinnamon. I could actually taste the coffee, and it still gave me so much pleasure in the morning. So here's why adding cinnamon is so important. Cinnamon actually lowers our blood sugar. What that means is that if we have sugar in our blood, and if we're too high in blood sugar, insulin gets released and it brings that sugar out of our bloodstream and stores it as fat. Well, what cinnamon does is it helps lower our blood sugar so that our insulin doesn't have to be released. We're not storing that fat. We're not storing the sugar as fat. And so it's actually helping us burn more fat. Now, cinnamon has the great benefit of also being sweet. So we get that feeling of having something sweet, and we're not actually spiking our insulin and creating that fat storage. So we're getting a little bit of that sweet feeling and we're curbing our sugar cravings. That's why adding cinnamon into my coffee was so instrumental. It helped me curb my sugar cravings. I got that sweetness that I liked, but I wasn't putting on the fat that was coming on in the morning because I was getting my metabolism high by adding the cinnamon. Okay. And so one question I want to answer right now is, well, why not use Splenda? It doesn't create that spike. Well, Splenda doesn't create an insulin spike like sugar does, but it does keep our brain addicted to sweet. The reasons that we want to get that out is because we don't want to have to feel like we need that sweetness in all of our foods. If we do, then we're not going to be able to enjoy the taste of things like vegetables, which are also another important part of the weight loss journey. So cinnamon has a little bit of a different flavor. It doesn't have that sharp sweetness, so you're not feeling that addiction to the taste of sweet. Okay. And so cinnamon is going to help you lower your blood sugar. It's going to curb your sugar cravings, and it also tastes really good. So definitely get that cinnamon out of your cabinet, get it going. Okay. Now, tip number 2 to how to get off of sugar and get rid of your sugar cravings is that I started realizing after all of my scientific research that there was a food that I could start adding that would boost my metabolism. I just needed to eat enough of it. And that food is protein. I have a mantra that's called protein more, okay? And that means just adding more protein than you had before. Now, protein is so instrumental to getting you off of sugar because protein keeps us full for longer. Okay, it takes longer to digest in our system. Because it's taking longer to digest, we're feeling satisfied as it's digesting. But in contrast, when we eat something that is high in sugar, high in unhealthy carbs, it breaks down really quickly. And then as a result, we feel hungry again because it broke down real quickly. It's out of our system. In that situation, our blood sugar is also spiked. We've stored some fat. And then we're eating more calories. So what protein does is it helps you keep satisfied so that you don't crave more calories. And because you're not craving more calories, you're not craving more sugar either. Okay. So protein also has a thermic effect where it actually burns calories while you're digesting it 20 to 40% more than other foods that you could eat. So you're actually losing weight as you are eating protein, as long as you're doing everything else that's really good. So let me share with you how to get more protein into your day, starting with breakfast, which is the number one way to get started, because breakfast is so easy to skip protein in. And if you skip it in your breakfast, it's really hard to get the amount that you need over the course of the day. So what I recommend is that you have 30 grams of protein in your morning breakfast. Now, 30 grams of protein can come from 2 eggs plus a cup of egg whites. 2 eggs is going to have 12 grams of protein, and then you add a cup of egg whites, which is 20 grams of protein. You just make it a scramble or an omelet, and it feels really easy just to add in those egg whites, especially if they're liquid egg whites. You can also do Greek yogurt, which is usually around 15 to 20 grams of protein, and then have 2 eggs with that. Or if you don't want to have eggs, you can do a protein smoothie where you use protein powder. You combine it with a non-dairy milk. You can also add 2 tablespoons of flaxseed, which are a healthy fiber. You can add a cup of strawberries. You can add a cup of spinach, and you can also add a little bit of mint as well. And that's a strawberry and mint metabolism boosting morning smoothie. Okay, so those are some examples at breakfast. Now, examples at lunch and dinner to get 30 grams of protein are really simple. All you have to do is you have to add a regular size of any kind of animal protein, and I'll also talk about vegetarian proteins. So animal proteins would be things like chicken breast, chicken thigh, turkey, beef, whitefish, salmon, so many of those things. And you want to have about this much. So you want to have it from the tip of your hands to your palm. So you want to have about this much, like it fills up your palm. That's the amount, and about like an inch of thickness. Okay. If you have a food scale, it's going to be between 4 and 6 ounces. And that's going to give you 25 to 30 grams of protein. So all you have to do is make sure that you're having that. Now, a lot of times if you're eating at a restaurant or if you're eating like typical servings, a lot of times the servings that you get are half of that. you really want to make sure that you know how much that 4 to 6 ounces is, but you can just use my hand technique as well so that you have a good idea. So I want you to really focus on having protein more. Okay. Now, some examples of vegetarian protein that you can add to any of your meals are Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, protein powder, tofu, and tempeh. And also, if you eat over 1 cup of broccoli, that gives you over 6 grams of protein. And if you have hemp seeds, that gives you 10 grams of protein for 3 tablespoons. And then you can also have lentils, but I want you to add in those hemp seeds because that increases the protein of the lentils without increasing the carbs. And that's usually a challenge for vegetarians, but you're able to do it with food combining, or what I call protein stacking. Okay. So make sure you're getting in that 30 grams of protein per meal and using the mantra protein more, because that's going to actually keep you full and satisfied and help you no longer have those sugar cravings. It's one of the top reasons that women are no longer having sugar cravings who I help. Okay. Now, tip number 3 is something that's very different than what you might have heard. And this is for you to be able to eat those foods that have some sugar in it, but that you still want to eat. You don't want to remove them from your way of living because you love them so much. So the secret is, in order to get off of sugar, but still eat foods that you love, is to combine your foods. So you don't have to deprive yourself and take these foods out. If you combine some of the foods that you're craving with other foods that digest more slowly, it's going to allow you to not have those sugar cravings and to not spike your blood sugar and put on weight, but you can still have that sugar that you want. So what I want you to do is pair foods with other foods. And I'm going to give you a framework of how to do that. Okay. First of all, let me give you 3 examples. So the first example is if you're having a fruit, like an apple or a pear. So if you're having an apple or a pear, those are definitely healthy foods, but they are high in sugar. And so if you eat them by themselves, they are going to digest very quickly. And then they are going to create a blood sugar spike. They're also going to create you having more sugar cravings, because every time you eat sugar, it makes you want to have more sugar. So what you want to do in this situation is, if you're having an apple or a pear, combine it with 1 to 2 tablespoons of nut butter, like peanut butter or like almond butter or anything else. By combining it, what will happen is that you're going to actually slow the digestion of that apple or pear. So your blood sugar is not going to spike. You're not going to create that fat storage, and you're also not going to feel sugar cravings afterwards. Well, because you first of all had the sugar that you wanted, but then it's not digesting as quickly. So you're not going to feel the need for more sugar right away. Okay. So an apple or pear with nut butter is example 1. Another example is if you want to eat something sweet like chocolate or like a brownie or like a pastry. Here is a little secret hack that you can do. You can have 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Add that into a glass of water, or you can add it into any other liquid. Now, you can drink this right before you have the sweet, and it's going to drastically bring down your blood sugar. Okay. And what you can do is, if you want to have it right before, you can drink it from a straw, because that's going to make it digest more quickly, the apple cider vinegar, so that it can really create that foundation and lower the blood sugar when you're having that sweet. But if you have it like 10 minutes or more, 10 minutes to an hour before, you can drink it out of a cup, and that's fine. And that's going to help create that foundation. Okay. So adding apple cider vinegar before you have a sweet is really going to help bring down your blood sugar spikes. And as a result, you're not going to feel that need for sugar afterwards. Now, the next example is if you're having something like oatmeal. Now, oatmeal is a complex carb, and a lot of people feel like it's healthy, and it definitely can be in the right situations, but it also is going to spike your blood sugar and create more sugar cravings for you, especially if you eat it alone. So what's really important is, if you want to have oatmeal, before having oatmeal, first have 1 to 2 eggs, because that's added protein. If you don't eat eggs, you could also have Greek yogurt, or you could have another form of protein first. And to really take this to the next level, you could also have a glass of water with a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. So you could have that first, have the apple cider vinegar first, either using a straw if you have it a minute before, or just drinking out of a regular cup if you have it 10 minutes to an hour before. And then what you can do is have the protein source, whether it's the eggs or the Greek yogurt or anything else, and then have the oatmeal. And what's going to be natural is that you also won't need or want as much oatmeal because you've also become more full with adding that protein. So these are 3 examples for how you can pair and combine foods so you can still eat the foods that you love, but you're not going to get that blood sugar spike, and you're also not going to feel sugar cravings afterwards because it's digesting with something else. So now the framework for combining foods is if you are having any sugars or carbs, pair them with a protein or a fat. And you can also add in apple cider vinegar, either alone or with something else that you're having. Okay, so we talked about the apple or the pear with nut butter. That's a healthy fat. We talked about the apple cider vinegar, then chocolate. And then we talked about the oatmeal with eggs, which is a protein. Okay, and also adding apple cider vinegar there. So as a recap, 3 ways to get off of sugar are to add cinnamon in place of sugar or artificial sweeteners or creamers. So add cinnamon to your coffee or tea or on top of your fruit in the morning. Add 30 grams of protein to breakfast and then each meal. And combine any sugars with a protein or healthy fat. Now, I want to share a very special gift that I have for you, which is my Sweet Spice cheat sheet, where I share 3 health benefits of using the sweet spice, which is likely in your kitchen cabinet. And this sweet spice, it helps lower blood sugar and it helps curb your sugar cravings. I'm also going to share 5 ways to use it in your day, most of which are no cook ways. And I'm going to share a special fat burning fire tea that fires away belly fat when you add the spice and you make the tea in the way I teach you. Now, I'm looking so forward to seeing you at my next video. What I'd love for you to do is to subscribe so that you can definitely catch my videos that I'm making regularly. And also check out my latest video, which is for you to see what I wish I knew before I lost 40 pounds. I want to thank you so much, and I'm going to see you very soon. Bye-bye.